All right, August 5th, 2025, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, an incident unfolded involving Fuji legend King Wasiu Ayinde Marshal, they call it Kwam1, and of course staff of Valuejet Airlines, which quickly went viral and sparked widespread controversy over, is it a show of big manism? Is it, who was right, who was wrong, and all of that. So joining me to unpack this conversation is our guest, General, he's the General Secretary, Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative, Olumide Ohunayo. I think I got it right. Hi, Olumide, are you there?
Ohunayo.
Hello?
Ohunayo. Hello, I'm here.
Ohunayo.
Ohunayo, yeah.
Okay.
Then I'm joined.
I was trying to use my Edo tongue to pronounce the name. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's break down this situation, because first of all, I'm a bit confused, right? Because I'm seeing that it's I was hearing that it's a publicity stunt and all of that. Can you just help us break down what happened, with what's it called, the Fuji musician Kwam1 and Valuejet? What happened?
Well, Kwam1, like every other passenger, bought his ticket to fly to Lagos from Abuja on his Valuejet, checked in and proceeded to the boarding area. So for some mysterious reason, he was able to get into the aircraft without flask and liquid. There was the staff of the airline who were doing the last layer of checks. The first layer of check is as you're entering into the airport. There's a machine there's a screening machine there that scans. Then thereafter, you have to there's the other one as you want to begin to go into the departure hall. There's another screening machine. Then along the line, the security the airlines, the security staff of the airline, you also meet them during the last pat down scan, then probably at the foot of the aircraft again. But how he was able to get that flask on board, because the flask got on board, and on board there, that was where the altercation started. And the crew said, well, you cannot travel with this with a liquid. And said, no, and then in between that argument, the ground staff tried to make him understand when the crew so it was that altercation that the captain had and came into the cabin to see what was the issue. But in his annoyance, I think at that point he opened it and spilled it over the body of the ground staff. Some touched the captain. That captain now went back into our cockpit and said, well, I will not travel with him. He has to be deported. And under the rules, once you're deported, they're supposed to come down from the aircraft. And on coming down from the aircraft, because it's already a safety issue, you're supposed to be taken by the airport security personnel to their office to make a statement. And then in some cases, in that making a statement, you might even be delayed or when that aircraft lands at its destination, because you probably might have something on board that might be incriminating. So in some cases, you are held down until the aircraft has landed, and there are no issues. But instead of taking Kwam1 out of the aircraft and straight into the terminal building, he was at the foot of the aircraft. So it's a mystery why a man that was deboarded was allowed to stand on a tarmac on the airside and by the foot of the aircraft. And if you look at some of the videos that have been going around, he was standing there with his PA, and they were practically pleading with someone who should have been arrested. They were pleading with somebody who should have been handcuffed. Because he was not just standing there, he was standing and obstructing the aircraft from moving. And it kept on and on and on and on. As the captain tried to move, if you see some of the videos, I've seen about 4 or 5 of those videos, he would go and stand in front of the aircraft. So the captain was avoiding to crush him and his team. So as I was standing up, people were trying to plead the ground staff and the speed were trying to keep the distance. Then they should move from the foot of the ground. That he didn't do. And then when the lady now lost it, which was the pilot, but when he had a little chance, he just revved the aircraft. And you could notice that if you have seen that video, that if he had not docked, he probably would not be alive today. He probably have been taken to Djibouti for burial rites, according to Islamic rite. But that happened yesterday. Because I'm sure if that thing hit him at the back of his head, the wings, at that speed was coming, and that thing was going to survive it. So he docked, and the aircraft went, and he was later taken into the fan security house for some briefing and take care of notes and making statements. And that was how it is until when reaction started. The first reaction was for the NCA to suspend the pilot's license. The airline itself removed the pilot, the captain and the FOA removed them. Both instructional protocols were breached by the lady, by the pilot, by the crew, and that was reckless and was risky for the ground staff and airport user. That it could have gone very badly. And what's that? The process of moving that aircraft out of that place with people still standing there, it's a breach of the supervision regulations and international standard of aircraft operations.
So
that was then later today, the minister directed the NCA to also that the two parties were guilty, and if the pilots are going on suspension based on the preliminary reports, then COM 1 should be on the no-fly list in the next 6 months, pending the outcome of the investigations.
Okay. So now, sorry about your cold. I see you struggling. Sorry. Yeah. Now, right, I have been on a flight before, so I had a terrible cold. I remember, so I had gotten, before leaving Nigeria, because it was an international flight, I had gotten this night nurse. The night nurse, I had gotten that. And actually from Nigeria, I flew to the UK. Nobody checked, nobody disturbed me, because normally in my head, I just say, okay, it's a medication, right? So it's not supposed to be a problem. But I think that bottle was either, I don't know the size of that bottle now, the night nurse bottle was the big size bottle. So it was above the allowed, but I felt like since it's a drug, it's not supposed to be a problem. But on my return leg back to Nigeria, right, going through the airport, because it was in my hand luggage, because it's a medication, I didn't put it in my checked-in luggage. It was in my hand luggage, because that was how I came from Nigeria. Going back to Nigeria from the UK, when I was going through the final clearance through the immigration and all of that, it was flagged, and they brought it out. And I said, oh, it's my medication. So the guy said, oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. If you have a prescription for it, right, then you can be allowed to take it on board. And I didn't have the prescription, right, because it was something that I just had a code and I took off the shelf. Now, Two things worried me on that flight, because I left Nigeria. I went through all those checks. Nobody flagged it because, it's a medication. But on the return leg, it was a different, procedure and standard that I met. So now the question is, how thorough? Because you said something very, very strong when you were narrating the incidents. How he got a 100 ml bottle, right, flask filled with content, when you and I know that regular Nigerians like us, there's a final point you have to get to where you have to either you drink all the liquid content and take an empty container, or you throw the liquid and the container together. You throw it away before you cross that final check. That he was able to get into that plane with the content. Do you understand? So how strong is our security checks? Because this is even raising a stronger concern for us as a people. How strong are our security checks in Nigeria?
Well, I just hope that the results we have been able to churn out when we have these checks from the international committee from ICAO or the other organizations, and we pass, and not just that we show it when they are around and we maintain it. For I know that what I saw him holding today, even if I check that flask in with liquid, if I check it in with liquid, I will still have a lot of conversation, or even know how to bring up some money for me for that flask to be checked in with liquid. That's a checking luggage in Nigeria. I mean, I said I have to find a way to persuade security that look, there's nothing in it. It's just my liquid. But oftentimes the first aim of any of their checking of any liquid is how to impound and own it, not to impound for security. It's how to you almost see them even dragging who's going to take that liquid from the person who's going to keep it. So, but in this case, my what we know is that when it comes to the VIP personnel, people that are important, people that are known to the public, you find that they're a bit relaxed with the rules and regulation, and the only way they can be relaxed is find out that maybe if it's not the man himself, maybe his PA would have been flashing something in the Nigerian language, the language that we know, because it's now we have dealt with the two culprits now based on the primary report. We also need to go back and look at the CCTV. How did that flask cross through the scanning machines, one or two security spots on farm till they got to the aircraft? Who were those on duty? What happened when they got there with that flask? I've seen a report on the site saying that when it came to the scanning point, that the flasks were empty. So if the flasks were empty, at what point did they get a liquid that was put in the flasks to take on board the aircraft? Again, my other issues at the point of I'm getting the aircraft, and there was an altercation in that, and the altercation resulted that it was unruly and could not, and did not seem be safe to fly, and it was asked to the board. At that point, the aviation security was supposed to have taken it right from the aircraft straight into the terminal building. He had no business standing around the aircraft or on the airside of the airport. That's a stellar area. It's either you are flying as a passenger or you have your ODC card. That's the only reason why you can be on that. If you're not flying there, you have to go back to the non-standard area, not to be on the tarmac, and not even standing by an aircraft that the engine was running and preparing to take off. What he did was terrorism, because he had obstructed a flight in an aerodrome.
So okay, I'm happy you are bringing it there, because you know what, we'll go on a break very shortly, right? Which brings me back to the question is that how thorough are our security personnel? Because guess what? It is not only supposed to be the pilot and the what's his name, the Quam one, that is supposed to be on this suspension. The person that is supposed to check that final check where that flask crossed, the person that was on duty, that person also should be on suspension right now. Everybody that turned a blind eye to the point where he was able to board that flight with that flask should be on suspension right now. It's not just the two of them that are involved, because it's an entire process. This incident did not happen in isolation. It happened with the cooperation of a lot of people, either via negligence or because you are in awe of a celebrity or something, because something went wrong. And it is not just the two parties that have been suspended. No, there's a chain of there's a chain of points or personnel that was crossed to get to that point. Who were they? Who were the people on duty? That's what I'm asking. How thorough is our Nigerian checks and systems in the aviation sector?
Well, yeah, we're saying the same thing. I said it before that, look, I didn't take a review. Go get the camera and see how the person, when it entered the airport, from the very first screening machine, who was there? What happened with that flask? Did they see that? Did they flag that flask? When it got to the second one that was moving to the terminal, into the departure lounge, did they start screening machine there, and that's it? Did not see that flask? Now, if they say the flask was empty, all through those two screen machines, like we're hearing now, then at what point, where did they get the liquid that was put into the flask? And like your personal experience, my first reaction was he had gotten on board with the flask, and what made the crew when he was already on board to fail to ask what was the content of the flask? There was something must have gone wrong, because if a normal passenger gets on board the aircraft and has his flask, you can safely assume that he had passed through the necessary checks, and that flask has to do with medication or probably water or something he needs to travel with for the flight.
Yeah, because
for the crew
for them to have asked. So from what I gathered, I heard that he was actually drunk, right? That is what someone that wanted to stay anonymous.
So that's what I'm saying. But I said, if I was the person, I'm wondering why a crew will ask me what do I have in my flask. Before you can ask that kind of question, I must be misbehaving.
Absolutely, he was. So that is the report that I heard. Because just to say a quick point before we take a break. When I was nursing my children, I can go on a flight with my flask of hot water to be able to make but they will clearly see that this is hot water, because I have babies to take care of. You are trying to make maybe their milk or something. If you are a nursing mother and you have all of those things, people don't really disturb you. But in this case, he was heavily drunk, according to the report that I gathered, and he was misbehaving. And that was what even led to the questioning of the content of that flask in the first place. But let's go on a break, because I want to ask a question around this 6 months, what's it called? The 6 months suspension. If that is even enough. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying tuned. Now, if you just tuned in, we're having a conversation around the aviation sector, especially with the recent incidents of K1, the Ultimate, and of course, Valuejet. And we're talking about how there was so much show of disrespect for aviation rules. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. You can also call us 07025007749 or 07014242420. Let's hear what you have to say. So I want to touch a little bit on civil aviation laws, right? Because now, as it stands, 6 months suspension, revoking of the license of the pilots, or is it suspension of his license, or her license rather in this case, right? Is that enough? Especially, let's even stick to the what's his name, Kwamwan. Because there is an act, I read it because I posted this on social media earlier today. There is a section of, I don't know if you're conversant with the Criminal Code Act, right? This section 459A of the Criminal Code Act in Nigeria, obstructing aircraft. It says any person who, by any unlawful act, obstructs, causes an alteration to be made in the course of or in any way whatsoever hinders or impedes the movement of any aircraft which is in motion on or in flight over any aerodrome is guilty of misdemeanor and is liable to imprisonment for 2 years. So is a 6-month suspension, is that enough punishment for what he's done? Because like you rightly said, if not for the mercies of God, somebody would have been severely hospitalized, right, in critical condition. If anything had happened, and that is why I commend the aviation minister and the NCAA for suspending the license of that pilot as well. Because no matter how much she was provoked, she shouldn't have moved that aircraft, because the casualty would have been really grave if anything had happened. But it's a 6-month suspension, no flight suspension for Kwam1. Is that enough deterrent?
Remember that it is said that it's a preliminary decision pending the outcome of investigation. It's not final.
Okay.
So yes, just like the pilots who have license suspended and taken away from flights from now. So I think it will be better for Kwam1 to show remorse and make necessary supplications for the grievous sin they have committed as this situation goes on. Because I see that if push becomes shoves, then it might have to be taken to court, and then once it goes to court, that section you just read, the rule kicks in. Because it was clearly obstructing that flight in an aerodrome, and this time an Abuja aerodrome. So he has breached the laws of the land, and that's can end him that the 2 years jail time. But you see, this is a country where we have had a lot of executive rascality. This is the first time. There was a senator that slapped a passenger in the Enugu airport, and the last one was one of Senator Shomole.
Oh, Shomole, yes.
Locking the terminal in Lagos. He didn't slap a passenger. It was not the one that slapped the passenger. That happened in Lagos. But the one thing that happened in Lagos, it wasn't that he held the terminal down, saying that because he could not go on the flight that he reported late for, then no flight was going to move that money. And it became a big scandal. He changed to that he did not disturb body, did not touch anybody, did ask his those to hold the terminal down for people entering the terminal. So, but the minister said they were going to investigate. Up to this moment, nothing has come out of that investigation. But it was one of the things we raised the land that look, this investigation is meant to kill this story, and once you kill it, another executive will use this same window to commit another crime against civil aviation. They use that to obstruct other passengers from having their flight. What he did today, he delayed that flight from taking off. He delayed that flight from taking off. And there's a cost of that delay, both to the passenger and to the airline itself. So I am happy that swiftly today, this time around, I was thinking we're going to go to that second where we'll be investigating. But I'm happy swiftly they come up with no flight this for 6 months pending the outcome of the investigation. And this will tell all that VIPs that look, you can go to the Oshodi and slug it out. You can go to railway terminals and lock the gate. But for civil aviation, it's a different kettle of fish. There's a law, both the law of the land and the civil aviation regulations. The laws has always been there. Nobody's bringing any new. The laws have always been there. But the problem we also have is implementation. It can only be implemented against you and I. But when it comes to the executives, when it comes to the big men, the laws bypass or they'll set up a committee that will never sit. But I'm happy that they're going to use command to start this process of showing that look, everybody is equal before the law. You cannot commit any fraction in the civil aviation space without paying the price. Because I can tell you, if what Kwam1 did today was done by an ordinary person, or done by someone like me or you, from the aircraft to what they would have mashed that person.
I would have been chilling the kirikiri by now.
you would not even have the chance to stand by around an aircraft that the engine was running. What was on? You would have taken straight to the security office of FAN. And you go there and start making a statement. If they are not satisfied, they're taking to the police station. They want between local and international airports. That's the airport police command. They're taking you there for further processing. And once you get to that place, it is from there the court process starts. So I'm happy it has happened now. Kwam1 should realize that you can be the mistral of Mr. President, but you are not above the rules and rules guiding the Nigerian civil aviation.
Okay, so tell me, Olumide, because let's try to now paint a different scenario. What would you have done if you were in this position and you were Valuejet? What would you have done?
It depends. If I was the pilot,
yes,
what I would have done at that point, because there's no way I would allow the engine to keep running with about 4 or 5 personnel right in front of the aircraft. So it's either I would have put up the engine and ask and shut down the engine of the aircraft and ask all passengers to disembark due to the delay, or I would hold on until when the security personnel would have been able to clear the taxiway, the parking bay for the aircraft to move safely without injuring any of the personnel on the ground there. If you look at that aircraft, it was just because the engine was up there. Suppose it was the engine were lower, the ones that are lower, they are close to the ground, any of the big jets. They probably have sucked someone in from the engine blast. There were 4 or 5 people at the foot of the aircraft, if not more. And they were all trying to persuade Kwamwan to leave that environment, which was also wrong. Kwamwan, from leaving the aircraft, should have, at that point, he was no more a passenger. He was now an unruly one
and it was a threat to the safety of everybody.
Both the pilot and the passengers. So on the body knee, he was supposed to be taken straight into the security section of the airport to process, document it, and if they're not satisfied, they move for prosecution by taking him to the Nigerian police. But if it can also be resolved within the fire security, if he makes some promises, if he shows remorse, apologies, and others, yes, it's within the power to use their discretion. But you see what he did? While he was there, he was making calls all over the place, thinking the calls were going to stop the flight.
But this is what we've seen.
Was the owner of the airline.
Over the years, right? Some airlines have been very, how do I put it? You will just be unnecessarily delayed, and all of a sudden they will tell you that, oh, it was one big man that they were waiting for that finally came. You literally can halt the entire itinerary of everybody. That's what has been happening in the past. So
if you are very active on social media, even last week, the recently launched Enugu Air, the passengers were delayed because the deputy governor from another state was coming on that flight, and they had to wait for him. And immediately the passengers brought out their phone and started tweeting.
So this is what we're saying, right? How do we start to ensure? Because Nigeria is part of the, what do they call this thing? The ICAO, that's the International Civil Aviation Organization. So
yes,
the rules that are supposed to govern us, right? It shouldn't be based on Nigerian standard. Why are we still having the Nigerian factor affecting aviation in Nigeria? Because where on earth will it happen that they say that, yes, I've heard a time, I was in Paris, where they blocked the airspace, right? And that was because, I think, was it Donald Trump that was coming into Paris then, right? I've been in that situation where the entire airspace was shut down because the president of the United States was coming into Paris. But all these things, at least it will be announced. Not that it is you're waiting for somebody because the person is a big man. If we continue to do like that, how do we start to then sensitize the entire aviation sector? How do we do that?
Yeah, you see, the truth is, for airlines that delay their flight because of a particular passenger, it has nothing to do with the regulator, ICAO, or even NCAA or FAD. It has to do with the airline itself. And the only way that airline can be punished for such action is for passengers to take a walk the next time or that day. So because I'm happy now that the NCAA is not coming up with the list of on-time departure of different airlines. They're coming up with them. They're putting up for passengers to see monthly statistics of those who of the flight departure, those who went on time, those who delayed, those who canceled. So if passengers are aware that a particular airline is often delayed, a particular airline is often cancelled, they will definitely take a walk. And that is the beauty of having numerous airlines. The days where you will hold passengers to ransom are gone. With the advent of social media, with the ability to quickly disseminate information, I am sure if Kwamwan has remembered that today that the social media has a lot of effect rather than the crowd that sings praises for at the Fiji dance floor. He would have thought twice before embarking on what he did today. The video was so evidential and has really put him in trouble. He cannot put his speech. I saw the press release from his PA, and I laughed and said, who does he think is telling this story when everybody's looking at the video and saw all that happened? You were moving as the plane was trying to get to the side, you were following the nose of the aircraft.
In fact, that one that he ran under the aircraft, I say, hey. But let me ask a question now. Speaking about the fact that today we are in a world of social media.
He didn't run under the aircraft. He docked. Because that was the point the pilot read and was about. If he had stood straight, he would have been late.
Okay, let me ask a question, because you touched something that I was heading to, right? Around the people. Now, if, for instance, now, the passengers that were on board that flight, how can they fight for justice? Because their own time was also affected. They were also part of the victim of this situation, right? Even if, let's even say that, okay, Valuejet decides to say they want to forgive Kwamwan tomorrow. How do the passengers ensure that they find justice and this kind of incident does not repeat itself again? Because I feel like this was grandstanding. This was a show of, I want to show you that I know Mr. President and he calls my phone number. That's all I see. Because if not, it's not me that can stop an aircraft. I would have been chilling in Kirikiri by now. So how do the people that were on board that flight, how do they ensure that this case is not swept under the carpet?
The option before them is they might write to the NCA and ask for compensation from the airline. They come together, come together and test their rights in the court of law. Those are the two options before them. Or the third one is probably writing to the airline itself that the fact this happened to them, their flight was delayed because of this, and the fact the airline was liable for making their flight to be delayed, and also see what the airline would say. But I know for this particular case, the airline itself is not solely liable. I'm looking at the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, who are supposed to have taken that man immediately was deboarded out of the air side of the airport.
So is it the airline that is at fault or the ground staff?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to come with full judgment with what you have heard on social media and you have listened to. But for us, but let's look at it this way: how did that flask? These are the areas I'm holding on to. How did that flask get
to the aircraft?
Yes. Did it pass through the scanning machine? If it passed through the scanning machine, why was it not flagged? If it was not flagged, then those who were at the scanning machine need to tell us what happened. And it should be part of this preliminary program of suspending people pending the outcome of the investigation. That's one part. The second part is you came on board the aircraft. You continue the unruly behavior. The pilot tried to intervene and he failed. Then he said, okay, I cannot take you anymore. You have to disembark. So when you're asked to disembark, then that's not voluntary. That's an involuntary disembarkation, which is more like an infraction and consequence of a bad behavior. When the passenger is forced to disembark, the airport security are called in. Not just the airline security now. The airline has its own security, but airport security are called in. The owners of the airport are called in to come and facilitate the implementation of the airline security. So at that point, when the foreign security will come on board to take him out, they are not taking custody of this passenger and are supposed to lead that passenger to the terminal building. He had no business loitering
around that part. So let me ask a quick question, because now that you are saying that you will still have to...
Before you ask, please.
Go ahead.
I was surprised they were pleading with him when they should have even put a handcuff on him.
I saw the guy pleading.
They are no reason pleading. They had no reason pleading. So maybe they heard him say, hey, I saw you, I'm here. Maybe that's what they heard. And everybody panicked. They had no reason pleading.
That's what I'm saying now, because the president called him when he lost his, I think it was his mom, right? So that he posted it on social. So he wants to show them that I have the president on speed dial. You understand? And of course, in Nigeria, once there's a big man, there's problem. And this is why I wanted to ask this question before we run out of time. Is it possible based on airport activities? I have flown private before, and I know I was still scanned, but I cannot recall. The VIPs or VVIPs that go through airports, be it they are going into a private jet or they are going into a commercial jet, do they get scanned? Is there any possibility that some of them they completely bypass the entire airport security?
No, that's not true. For the private jets, they still go through scan. They still get to the scanning machine to ensure that they comply with the rules and regulation. But if you want to drink wine in a private jet, you have ordered it ahead and they provide it on board. That's not done on the commercial or the scheduled flight. But you can have that in the private jet. You will not bring it in. It's part of your request, and the airline will provide it to you. But the rules guiding going through the airport protocols applies to scheduled and non-scheduled flights.
It's so interesting because even when Olumide, even when you go through duty free, huh?
I said the only difference is that the amenities on board and the flexible arrival time at the airports.
Yeah.
For your flight.
When you are going through private, I was just going to say that even when you are going through commercial and you pass through duty free, I know that I've never bought alcohol because nothing concerns me with alcohol, but I've seen people that buy alcohol. From the duty free, there's a special way they wrap they package the alcohol just to be able to give clearance to the to the people at the entrance of the aircraft to tell them that okay, you didn't bring the bottle from somewhere, it was bought within the duty free region. Like these things are just, I don't understand how somebody would just wake up and think you are above the law, because for me this is just the height of lawlessness and unruliness rather, right? Because if not, these rules are everywhere. When you go abroad, you comply with the rules. Why is it so difficult for us to be able to comply with the rules within Nigeria? It makes no sense. So as we wrap up the conversation, what would be your final thoughts on this?
Well, I think what is clear now is that Nigerians should know that nobody is above the law when it comes to civil aviation. We need to comply with the rules and regulations, and the security apparatus within the airport need to buckle up and ensure that the fairness here is their duty to comply with the rules to the letter, irrespective of who is traveling. And I think that should be the mantra. If we have had this mantra, we would not have had this concurrent executive rascality.
I love the way you put it, executive rascality. Oh my God.
I'm sure. But I am sure what he was, knowing him, what he would have done as was coming in, he would probably have been on the phone all through. Nobody would have searched him. Rather than search him, they would be afraid of that's the president's mission. Nobody should touch him. Nobody should touch him. And he would have been going through. And he might be maybe bringing on this normal cash to see that he has some money. But every day is for the thief, one day for the owner. Today he got it wrong and he has to pay the price.
He got it wrong. Oh, you cannot live larger than life, I beg. He got it wrong. Yeah. And I think what you said earlier is that the best thing for him to just do right now is to show remorse, come out, apologize. You understand? With sincerity.
Exactly. Because if he continues trying to get the owner of the case is beyond the owner of that airline.
Yes.
The case is beyond the airline. It's a national.
It's a national case issue. Because honestly, when you look at that video, everybody's life was at risk.
I'm trying to call Tsunami to deal with the staff, to punish somebody. It should better.
I don't even think Shoname would want to answer himself.
Well, if you see some of the voice notes that we heard, I don't know from Shoname, but the voice note we heard was that he was supposed to. They apologized to him. They provided him with with a PJ to fly with, but he was still with the fan security then, so he could not go on the PJ. But later flew on the same Valuejet around 7 p.m. later in the day back to Lagos. So irrespective of that, he still got sanctioned, and I'm sure if he does not show remorse, apologize, and promise to comply with the regulatory authorities and the regulation of civil aviation, he will get the other punishment, which is by being prosecuted.
No, that's crazy. That's crazy. I wouldn't, you know what? I think we are part of the problem in this country, Sha. Let me just leave it there. Because honestly, why would they even provide a private jet or provide any flight for him at all? Do you understand? You should also... Go ahead.
You know, I think there's a need to... There are two things there. The story might not be true. Mm-hmm. And also, if it is true, the owner might not have gotten the
full picture,
the clearer picture of what happened. As at the time, you know, all the while he was on that tarmac, he was making calls all through. Mm-hmm. All the while he was trying to stop the aircraft, he was making calls all through. Mm. So let us just leave it that way. That they've shown the owner that this is not your personal car, this is not your private jet, this is a civil aircraft that must comply with the civil aviation regulation. So it's beyond you as owner. He has broken one of the rules of civil aviation, and he has to pay the price.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you so much. I hope you get better soon, because this is your cold. I think you should do some lemon, ginger, and honey. You know, with hot water.
That's what I'm working on. That
will do you. It will do you a lot of good. Thank you so much. You've been an amazing guest. Thank you so much. All right, so please, before we go, ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channels at Official Upgrade TV. You can interact with us further. Drop a comment, and most importantly, follow all our social media handles and engage with us online. Now, if you missed our quote for today, it says, what I must assure the general public is that everybody involved in this will be brought to book. As we speak, the passenger is going to be blacklisted for the next 6 months flying in Nigeria. And this was by the Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection at the NCAA. Now, we'll see you guys tomorrow, 8 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your evening.